Good evening, ladies and gents. Change of pace to a junior explorer, Oriole Resources, previously Stratex International PLC. I've been with the company for 6 months, and in that time we've had a rebrand, a new C-suite, a new board of directors, 2 new non-execs, and some new money, and also some new projects. So we are, it's a bit faint I'm afraid, but we are primarily focused on operations in Cameroon and in Senegal. Cameroon we're operating ourselves. Senegal is a license or a series of targets that we had previously, and we've joint ventured out with a group from Canada. We also have a number of assets in Turkey, which are mainly out under JV with Turkish companies for development into hopefully into mining operations. If we start off in Senegal, the Dalafin license is a fairly large area, 472 square k's, and it covers a series of target areas within a prospective belt for gold mineralization. Historically, quite a lot of work done on the area to tie down and identify these target areas. Particularly notice the Fare deposit in the north here and Medina Bafe in the south. There are a number of other targets in between, but these two we'll talk a little bit more about. Oriole has an 85% shareholding in this license in partnership with a Senegalese joint venture partner. There's a considerable amount of work being done on this license in the past. Over 30,000 meters of drilling, mainly RAB and RC. For those of you not familiar, any air-based drilling is typically cheaper, higher volume and used as first pass, and then you would go to diamond coring for more technical data, structural information and so on after that. So first phase drilling has been done on 4 of the key targets, Fare in the north, Medina Bafe in the south, and then the 2 areas immediately in between them, Saridia and Batilaya. If we look at the northernmost one of those, the Fare deposit, or the Fare target area, you can see on this geochemistry map here, you can see these hot spots following trends of gold mineralization. Scale bar down at the bottom here is 1 kilometer. So to give you an idea, we've got significant mineralization, extensive over several kilometers in these 3 target areas. Some good results from the early stage work. From the early drilling, things such as 96 meters at 1.5 grams, 7 meters at 86 grams, 23 meters at nearly 1.5 grams, 1.4. So obvious evidence of gold mineralization, evidence of consistency from drill fence line to line along strike. So we've got areas of consistent gold which need follow-up, and the follow-up is more detailed drilling, closer density, and to try and tie those into something that could potentially look like a resource and potentially then hopefully a reserve and a mineable mineable target. If we go down to the southernmost one at Medina Bafe, again 1,000 meters of trenching. Trenching results here, 4 meters at 1 gram, 0.4, 6 meters at 0.86, 1.2 at 1.4. 1.14, sorry, plus some diamond and RC, nearly 7,000 meters of RC drilling and 1,000 meters of diamond drilling to prove up on the deposit styles. So a number of indications that it's well mineralized, there is gold there, it's tied in with, typically as you would get in this part of West Africa, tied in with structures trending across the greenstone belt. Now, what have we done with these licenses? This is the license outline again with Medina Bafe in the south and Fare in the north. Drilling is an expensive game, and as a project generator, such as Oriole, our ideal methodology is to identify a new area of mineralization, bring it to a certain point, add value to it, and then find somebody to undertake the expensive job of doing detailed drill out. And that's exactly what we've done here at Dalafin. The license, the entire license, has been taken on in a JV agreement with a Canadian company called IAMGOLD. For those of you unfamiliar, IAMGOLD has a market cap of about 1.7 billion. It's got 4 operating gold mines. It operates mines in West Africa and North and South America. IAMGOLD has been around for quite a long time. It's a well-respected Canadian mining company, mid-tier to major mining company, and has a commitment to developing assets in West Africa. And one of those assets sits about a stone's throw away from us to the east of Medina Barfi end, the southern end of the license, out here at Boto. Now this deposit, they've done a pre-feasibility study on. They've got over 2 million ounces of gold in that deposit, and they are announcing a feasibility study, they have said, in the second half of 2018. More recently, they've said that that's going to be announced sometime in the next month or two. So how does that impact us? Well, the expectation is that if they are looking to develop a new mine at Boto, anything they find on our ground to the west of it could be potentially satellite feed to that mine, which means the capex for developing everything is much, much lower. So you can develop a much smaller resource or a lower grade resource, if it happens to be that, we don't know that yet. And you can use existing infrastructure. And so we've been working with IAMGOLD. The deal was signed on, I think, the 2nd of March or the 3rd of March this year, and they have gone immediately into a drilling phase on that project. The targeted spend, they've got an $8 million spend to earn in on that license, and they're well on target with the current level of expenditure. They have gone straight into the air core drilling program, 3,000 meters of air core drilling and 2,000 meters of RC, and they're hoping to follow up with some diamond core drilling. So the first phase of air core has been completed. We are expecting results from that now. We were hoping for results late September, early October. It's the 1st of October. We're hoping for those results early October. So we're on track, and more importantly, our major partner is on track to deliver those results very, very soon. And obviously that tied in with the fact that they have a feasibility study being announced very soon on the neighboring license could have a big impact for us. We don't know whether the feasibility study is going to show positive economics. We know that they've been saying most recently in Denver that they're looking to upgrade and increase the resource. So we can only expect that from the coverage that IAMGOLD have given it, they're quite confident that it's got some value in it. Now, whether that value is for IAMGOLD or whether they're looking to find a partner to come in on that, we don't know. But the knock-on effect to us is our license is likely to continue to be carried forward with exploration, and any successes in our license have a very good chance of success across the border of that license with Boto. So this is just a comment on their Boto project. The base case increasing the mill throughput 2.5 million tons per annum, updating the reserves and resources based on the new drilling, and optimizing the TSF, the tailing storage facility, staging and design. So what it looks like is that what they've announced as coming out in their feasibility study is tweaking their existing project, which is always a good thing because it means they're trying to get it better to take it past an investment decision to build. They already operate in West Africa. It's not a new country. It's not a new continent for them to be playing in. All the indications are pretty positive. Their results, they've got a 13-year mine life on the existing pre-feasibility study, so we're hoping that'll increase. They have a direct cash costs of just over $700 per ounce and an all-in sustaining of just $830 per ounce. So even with the current gold price being a little bit depressed as it is, they're coming in well under the prices and therefore economic. Certainly it would be economic in our opinion. So what else are we doing? That license is being managed by IM Gold. Their exploration team are working on it with oversight from our West African manager, Issouf, who's a Burkinabe-based geologist. So Issouf's main target is down in Cameroon. We have some new licenses that were picked up in Cameroon earlier this year. These are two license areas which I knew previously from my, prior to Oriole, I was with a Canadian group called Reservoir Minerals, and we had a high-profile discovery in Serbia, Čukaru, which we ended up selling the company on the back of. But we did have some licenses here in Cameroon, and we identified this area back in 2012 as a potential new gold belt. It's an area that's had very, very low level of exploration activity in the past. There has been mining activity in Cameroon, but not as heavily as in other parts of West Africa. So unfortunately for Reservoir, they discovered these anomalies in Cameroon at the same time they discovered Čukaru in Serbia. Čukaru was 15% copper and 15 grams gold. So some gold anomalism in Cameroon absolutely fell into the long grass, and all the focus was on Serbia. These assets became available earlier this year, still with the existing Cameroonian partner, BEIG3, and we had the opportunity to review them independently as Stratex as it was at the time, and we were very pleased to be able to get back in on them under Oriole. Now, BEIG3, the local partner, it's probably important to mention here that the Cameroonian government has seen the benefit of investment in the mining sector in West Africa, but it hasn't seen it in Cameroon. And what they did a couple of years ago was they realized that they needed to attract investment, and they needed to attract, importantly, foreign investment. And the best way to do that is to put up good data and make the environment prospective for overseas investors. So what they've been doing is they've been working with the BRGM, the French Geological Survey, and with the Finnish Geological Survey, GTK, to do a country-wide geological reconnaissance program. Geophysics, geochemistry, mapping, to try to identify hotspots, prospective areas within Cameroon, which they can then promote to external investors. Now, why is that important to us? Well, first of all, we already have the ground, so we're already first mover advantage. But secondly, our partner in Cameroon is BEIG3, which is a Cameroonian geological services company, which is part of that survey of Cameroon-wide geology, geophysics, geochem. So we have an inside track on the rest of Cameroon. The Cameroonian Ministry of Mines is very attractive to investment, and we've gone ahead already. We only signed the deal with BEIG3 early this year. We've already done the first phase of work out there. The deal we have is a 51% earn-in on the initial licenses based on a $1.5 million investment, and then an option to earn an additional 39% to take us to 90% with an additional 1.5. So $3 million total spend to get 90% of these assets. It is a new area. We're an explorer. We are at the high risk end of the business, but what we've done in the past is we've been very, very good. Our team has been very, very good at identifying new areas, new deposit areas, new target areas. And we believe Cameroon fits really well in our portfolio for that. So we're very enthused about that. BEIG3 retain a free carry interest to PFS level. So at that point, there's potential for us to go from 90% to 100% if they are unable to fund their 10% contribution. But you know, we've got to find something first. So have we found anything? Well, the greenstone belts are they're known. They're just not well explored. There is some mineralization historically identified across the border to the east in Chad. But if we move on to our licenses, again, hotspot geology. If you look at the hot colors in here, and this is a 0 to 2 kilometer scale bar. you can see, again, long trends of anomalous gold associated with northeast, southwest structures tied into the regional geology. Now, this is an area of, what we look for as geologists is areas of cratonic conflict, where you've got deep structures that have had multiple phases of mineralization, multiple phases of gold and mineral carrying fluids coming up. And that's exactly what we have here in this area between Cameroon and Chad. And if we get onto the local scale, you can see that there is evidence of gold mineralization along some of those structures. Now, this is very, very, very early stage. We've identified from soil sampling and from trench sampling that there is gold mineralization. Reservoir minerals previously had some nice intersections, 14 meters at a gram, 22 meters at 1.13, 30 meters at 2.17, 6 meters at 8. So they've identified mineralization associated with these structures, but we don't know how tight the structures are. We don't know whether the gold mineralization bleeds into the surrounding host rocks, which is really important for building up volume. What we do know is they're consistent. There's multiple structures, multiple phases of mineralization. There is some artisanal mining in the southwest along strike from here. There's no artisanal mining on our license, on our main target areas itself. But again, it's indicating to us, it smells good. There's gold there, it's associated with structures, deep crustal structures. We should be there looking harder. And so we are. Up in the volcanosedimentary units around this central granitic intrusion, we're again getting the same sort of signatures here based on streams and soil sampling. So at Bibemi, we've completed our first phase review after the JV was signed. We've been in and done some additional mapping, some sampling. We've just in the process of finalizing a preparation lab, a sample prep facility developed on site. That has been audited by Bureau Veritas, which is our preferred lab in West Africa. So we've got a couple of little hitches we've got to fix there to make sure that the sample prep facility is QA/QC'd, so that any data that comes out of it is appropriate for use in announcements. We are talking to drill contractors right now because the lead time of getting rigs into site. We've got a couple of months of field work to do, but we will want to be drilling by the end of the year, early 2019. Up at Wapuzi, we're continuing with early stage work, systematic soils and reconnaissance trenching, and we will again move on to some diamond drilling, diamond and RC drilling up at Wapuzi. What else have we got? Those are assets that we are currently managing ourselves with our team doing the work on them. We've also got some investments that came out of deals in the past. In order of scale, we have a 30% ownership in a private company, Tani Stratex Resources. Tani was originally Anglo Gold Tani Ashanti JV, till Anglo Gold pulled out. They were primarily focused in East Africa, and Stratex at the time put in the Djibouti assets as part of a JV. So they've got assets in Djibouti and Egypt. Tani Stratex are currently looking at funding and how they can fund those assets to develop them a little bit further. We have an 11% shareholding in Tembo Gold, which is an extension to the, or Tembo assume it's an extension to the Bulyanhulu deposit in Tanzania, along to the northeast. And we also have a share of an Australian junior, Foro Resources, which has some really good projects in Burkina Faso. So these are projects that we do not have direct control of ourselves, but they're in our portfolio, and all companies which are, with the benefit of some funding, going to take these projects forward to some success, we hope. We also have a number of assets from Turkey. The company initially started about 12 years ago with a lot of assets in Turkey through an agreement with Teck, who remain one of our shareholders. Over the time, those assets have been explored and developed, and a lot of them have been put out to joint venture with Turkish companies. Here just a breakdown of some of the holdings we have. This holding at Murrett Dairy is reducing to a royalty based on funding. We have an NSR here, which we also have some outstanding cash payments due to us. We have another NSR with TET, again with some cash payments owing to us. And we also have some other royalties with a couple of other gold projects and a bentonite deposit on a license which we have the rights to explore for gold. So Turkey is a difficult place at the moment. You'll all have seen the politics in Turkey. Very, very difficult place to get licenses, very difficult place to get permits. We strategically have decided it's not the best use of our money to go chasing targets in Turkey. We are not well connected enough to be able to do that. However, we have Turkish partners that are progressing these projects in Turkey, and the benefit for us is they're using our Turkish team to do a lot of that work. So it's offsetting our operational costs. So we maintain a very small office in Ankara with some geological exploration manager, geology, and some admin staff. But the majority of their costs are actually paid for by our JV partners, because a lot of these companies are not experienced on those licenses. So they're using our expertise to develop our licenses on their behalf and paying us for the privilege. So we're quite comfortable with that. We have long-standing agreements with these Turkish groups, and we have good relations with them. So we're quite confident that some of this money owed will come through in the fullness of time. Unfortunately, we can't predict when that's going to be. So I apologise for the faintness of this, but just in summary, projects, obviously the Dalafin license with the IM Gold earning, we maintain 30% of this after the $8 million. So this is a very significant project by an existing gold mining company operating with a 1.7 billion market cap, operating next door to us. We really expect to see some value come out of this. Cameroon, it's earlier stage, but it's a new belt, and money is starting to flow into the mining sector in Cameroon. So we very much consider we've got first mover advantage in Cameroon. We're continuing to assess projects in Africa, Europe. We're kind of limiting ourselves to that time zone. Broadly, we're limiting ourselves to base metals and gold. That's our expertise. But nothing's off the table at the moment. We've had a lot of very interesting approaches in the last 6 months while we've been rejigging the company. And on the investment side, we maintain a number of investments, some of which are due to pay us cash, some of which are due to pay us royalties in the fullness of time. So we have a small market cap, just under £4 million. We've got a couple of £1 million in the bank, which is enough money to take us forward through to June next year with the operations in Cameroon, which is our main expenditure point. So we went to the market in June, raised just over £1 million. That was the first time we'd been to the market since 2012. And our hope is that we won't be needing to rush back to the market anytime soon. We've got a good 10 months of funding still behind us. But we hope that on the back of some of this good news coming out of Senegal and coming out of Cameroon, we're better positioned for partnerships and deals as we go into 2019. Very briefly, we've got a couple of new non-execs on board, John McGloin, notably, and David Pelham. They joined us at the beginning of September. Both very, very well respected in the junior mining and financing sector. Most recently, John served as chairman and CEO of Amara Mining when it was sold for 85 million. I was COO at Reservoir Minerals, that was sold for 365 million. And the project is now, Nevsun is now up for sale for, I think, 1.7 billion. Bob Smeaton has come in from outside of the mining sector, which is really refreshing. He's got extensive experience in AIM-quoted companies, but he brings a new dynamic to reviewing deals, because he doesn't accept what we put forward as, oh, this is a typical kind of deal we do. He'll question everything, which is fantastic. It's really good. And David Pelham, our other Ned, he most recently was involved in the development of the Chirano deposits in West Africa, in Ghana, Chirano gold mine. and in Hummingbird's Dugbay deposit in Liberia. He's just stepped off the Hummingbird board recently. So he is still on the Cora Gold board at the moment. So these guys have got experience in developing mines in Africa, directly relevant to what we're doing in our sector. Our shareholding is broken down. We have shareholding, obviously, in the executive. Bob and I both shareholders. This hasn't come out very well on the slide, but we've got Preston Road, we've got BlackRock Tech, Hawk Investment Holdings, and Orion Trust. So a couple of new names in there in the latest raising, and then a mixture of small ownership. We've got a small percentage from Antofagasta Minerals. There's an overhang from a deal we had with them in East Africa previously, and obviously some retail. As I said, market cap going to press today, I think, is just under 4 million. Share price was about 0.56. Cash in the bank mid-year, just over 2 million. So we are, as a junior, we are in an unusual position of having money. We are also in an unusual position of having a very, very light team with light costs, because a lot of our team is paid for by our partners. Both Bob and myself have come into this with a view to this being a turnaround story for the company, and consequently we've come in on what we consider to be appropriate levels to this scale of company. And we've been able to attract some great new non-execs. We've been able to maintain the technical team that we had already in Stratex before we did the name change. And we're now hoping that we can piggyback off the asset base we have and the JV partners that we have to take the company forward to some success. And I think that about wraps it up.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have any questions from the audience at all?
Sorry, it wasn't clear how much does the management and board owns in terms of shares, percentage of the company?
1%. I think my personal holding is about 0.7 at the moment.
That's pretty low compared to other AIM companies. Why do you own only 1% of the company? That's very low.
That's the way it is at the moment. I mean, I can't buy at the moment because we've got stuff going on.
And as you say, the board are relatively new.
Well, the board haven't been able to buy any themselves, the two non-execs, because they've just come in September. I have an options base on that, and I have also privately purchased 2.7 million shares. Bob has privately purchased shares. The outgoing CFO purchased shares in the last raising, as did some of the outgoing board. Yeah, if I'd been in the formation of this company back in 2006, I probably would have had a much larger shareholding by now. But I've been with the company 6 months.
I think it's fair to say you've probably been inside on certain stuff.
Most of it.
For
most of the last 6 months.
Percentage of that.
Yeah.
Any more questions at all?
It's quite unusual for a small company like Oriole to have a joint venture with a $2 billion company in IAMGOLD. What is in it for IAMGOLD, and ideally, what is in it for Oriole?
IAMGOLD, you know, I've been on the other side of the fence. I worked for Anglo American. I worked for Barrick for 14 years. So I used to go around evaluating juniors with deposits next door to our stuff. I know exactly what IAMGOLD have got here. They've got an existing deposit that they want to develop. And common sense tells you that to add to that resource, you do brownfields within a stone's, you know, in the shadow of a headgear is the old adage. Well, we are in the shadow of the headgear. In fact, our license used to be owned by IAMGOLD. They had to relinquish it when, you know, as you do with exploration licenses, when you get to renewal periods, you have to hand a percentage of your license back. So for IAMGOLD, this is immediate potential feed for a deposit that they're hoping to build. So for them, it's cheap gold, to sort of summarize it. Where is it for us? Well, when IAMGOLD get to that decision, when they've completed the exploration on the Dauphin license, if they find something that's mineable, and if they've decided to go ahead developing the Boto resource into a mine, then they have the option to maintain us at a small shareholding, 30%, or they have the option to try and take us out. And that will that decision will be premised on how much gold they find on the license. So it could be a buying opportunity for IAMGOLD, a selling opportunity for Oriole. They may wish to take out the company, they may wish to take out the license, or we may just get carried along as a 30% owner of resources being developed in the Boto mine. Whichever way it happens, it can only be good news for Oriole. That's the way we look at it. The key thing in these positions is always to protect your minority position, which is something we did. The last company I was with when I was with Reservoir Minerals, that's exactly what we did with Freeport-McMoRan. It's exactly what we did when we brought Rio Tinto in as joint venture partner into Serbia. That's exactly what we've got here with IAMGOLD. Our minority position is protected. If they find something which they spend to explore and discover, we benefit 30% of it. So for us, it's kind of free money, really.
Is it fair to say that in the next six months, we're going to see obviously potentially more news flow coming through from these things fairly quickly, as you said, but
much more, yeah.
Potentially a lot more news flow in the next 6 months than what we've had.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very, very quiet the last 6 months. We've been focused on corporate turnaround. IAMGOLD have just been literally getting their rigs on site and doing the early stage work on Dauphin. So we expect that the next big thing for us is going to be IAMGOLD announcing their feasibility study, and on the back of that, their decision whether or not they wish to go ahead and build a mine at Boto. And I urge you all to look at the IAMGOLD websites and presentations. You may get a flavour of how keen they seem to be on that. Their exploration team is operating full on the Dauphin license. So we'll get a lot of news flow out of that. We're waiting for the first lot of drill results now. The process is that they have to get their internal QA/QC sign off on the results before they release them to us. And then when we get them, we do a quick check and then we release them to the market. So we're expecting those to be the first of a number of announcements over the next 6 months. Plus Cameroon, of course, we're doing on our own, and we'll be announcing that as results come in.
Tim, are you going to be able to stay around for a little bit after this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Livesey.
Okay.